until about 2019, the sort of numbers of international students coming in was about 200,000 every year. That number has now increased in the last 12 months to 500,000 students, and you can see it there. That's just the students over the last about decade. And then on top of that, there was another 150,000 dependents. The government tell us they're going to deal with the dependents, but they're very proud of the student numbers. And many might say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, the rules are that having done a degree here or a master's here, you can then stay for 2 years on a graduate working visa, and that qualifies you to then get a 5-year skilled worker visa. You're basically there for life. Now, the Home Office immigration rules are quite clear with regard to international student visas. It says that the university that you are going to is essentially a sponsor, and the rules of sponsorship are this: that the course of study must take place on the premises of the student sponsor, unless it's, for example, a temporary relief if you're going on a field trip or something. And the Home Office requires the sponsors to comply with this, as set out in the sponsor guidance. This is really important, because what we've discovered actually is that is not happening. Now, you can understand it during COVID when everybody was at home or having to be online. But since then, a number of separate studies have shown that actually the vast majority of courses now, a significant percentage, or indeed up to 100%, is either still online or actually you can do it online. So you don't have to go to any seminars, you don't have to go to any lectures whatsoever. And there's an entity called the HEPI Student Academic Experience Survey 2023, which has just been published, shows that 75% of students stated that between 10% and 100% of the lectures were online. 60% said that the same figure, up to 100% of seminars were online. So do you see what's happening here? The very premise of the Home Office student visa obligation is clearly being breached. In fact, you barely need to come at all. You get your visa and you could be somewhere else in the world. Well, I'm delighted to be joined by my first guest to discuss this, Dr. Mike Jones of Migration Watch. Mike, a very good evening. Thanks for this. This is really significant because I believe that knowingly the universities and the Home Office are basically turning a blind eye to this blatant abuse of the rules and regulations.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, the promise of Brexit was to take back control. But essentially what's happened is the Home Office has outsourced control of the student visa system to the universities, which is like putting Count Dracula in charge of the blood transfusion service. I mean, essentially the Department for Education has no interest in enforcing these rules and regulations, and the universities are quite happy to take advantage of this bureaucratic indifference.
It's extraordinary. Now, some will say, and many in the government say, and elsewhere, well, this is fantastic, international education, it's a great export, and we should, the more the merrier, and what's wrong with doing online? What are your thoughts to that, Mike, to those who take that approach?
Well, don't get me wrong. Many of the international students deserve to be here. I'm glad they are here. They study at elite universities. They contribute to campus culture and the research community. But there's a point of diminishing returns here. You know, as you pointed out, Richard, the number of student visas is just shy of 500,000. When I graduated in 2005, that number was about 200,000. Many of these students, I'm afraid to say, are propping up substandard institutions that offer Mickey Mouse courses.
And that in itself is really significant. Should we really worry about this, or actually do we just take the view the more money, the better? Or actually is the flaw, Mike, if, for example, you didn't automatically qualify for a graduate working visa to stay here after the degree, then actually maybe it would be much less of a problem?
Yeah, that would certainly make a difference. But at the end of the day, you need a cap on student visas. You've got to remember that the higher education sector are a vested interest group. Universities will keep the pedal to the metal on the numbers because it enriches their coffers. But of course, the costs of immigration are dispersed in terms of higher house prices, higher rents, pressure on public infrastructure.
All of the pressure on public services, exactly, which Nigel mentioned earlier. Mike, thank you so much indeed for your thoughts on that.